Hi everyone, this is Stephanie at Hightower Stitching with today's video, which is 272. And you don't see any fancy stuff out today because this is just really one of those neat ideas to help you with some of your projects. I noticed lately that the borders are getting bigger. You know, the inside of the quilt seems small, and so to get the size up, then you keep adding borders to the edge. And one of the borders I saw was a 5.5-inch border. And I thought, my gosh, what am I going to do with a 5.5-inch border? And so you go through different things and different ways that you're going to, if you're going to free motion quilt it or quilt it. And then I saw something in a magazine the other day, one of the McCall's quarterlies, and I liked it. I'm going to use it. And what I'm going to do is show you a way to break up your 5.5-inch wide border. That said, I had to sit down and think about this a little bit. I know it sounds crazy because I didn't pick up the right ruler to start with. The ruler. I was looking at my cutting mat ruler, and the first thing we're going to need, you don't even know what we're going to do. You're just going to have to hang in there. Is make a 4-inch 4/7/16 square. We're going for a 4 7/16 square. And because I started with this, then I had issues because it does the eighths. And then later, I actually found one of those rulers left over from teaching school, and it actually breaks it up into 16 before the first inch is there, and then the next 16. And so that would have shortened this a little bit, but it's sort of like using your brain. So what I would have is I'd have all the way down to 4 inches, and then I'd count my spaces to get to where it's 7, and it's right here. All right, well, that's not how big my piece is. That was just an example as I was thinking about it before I found all of these rulers that would tell me what 7/16 is. That said, here is my first 4 7/16 square with one diagonal drawn through it. All right, so you got a square. All right, then here the square has been changed into 2 triangles. And then the next step is to take and fold in the 2 sides. Now what I liked, because I just happened to have a piece of the Templar plastic that one day when I went in to buy template, the clear kind, they didn't have it. And I said, well, I'll just get this and see what I use it for. Well, I'm using it. So what you do to help you, because that's going to be hard to see and to fold, then you get this pressable, this no melt Templar plastic, and you make a square from this one that's 3 7/8. And if you do that with what we're going to end up with a triangle, a little mountain peak that's going to have a 5-inch base. Then that's really a nice base if you're doing a long quilt, but I like it. So what you're going to do is you're going to take that plastic, you're going to fold this under. I finger pressed it with a little bit, and then I went to the iron and I pressed along the side, and then I got to get that lined up better, and then I pressed it along that side. I only have to do 2 sides, okay? And then when you get that done, and remember that'll give you a 5-inch base, And you can use that on your 5.5-inch border. And here it is. And when I set them down in order, I let them cross over right at the bottom, because you want to have it that when you stitch it, of course, and I'm sure you figured that out, when you stitch it, you want it to be like 1/4 of an inch, so that when that's gone, you have your peaks, and they're just touching them. And it made me think back to prairie points, which are fun to make. You take the square and you fold it a couple times and you lay them down and you work them. Well, this gives you the option to have a big base, a single layer of fabric that's not going to be heavy, and you've pushed it down. Now, what can you do when you get it there? You can take and you can, hold it in place temporarily, you can get some of the fabric glue and then put it underneath it so it'll stay while you decide to either stitch it on your sewing machine or to do some hand stitching. And that's really where I was going. I have been having a ball getting back to hand stitching. I just finished a table runner, piano runner, that was 62 inches long by 14. And I actually made 2 of them. And I said, this time, instead of sewing them with my machine from the back and then shutting it up by pulling that binding to the front and sewing it on the sewing machine, I'm going to go back to what I know about doing it by hand. And that really got me set off. So I liked this article when I saw it, because what I just said is, the other thing you can do is, if you like your handwork, then you can go into the back. Now I've got my thread doubled so you can see it. Depends on how strong your thread is. I've got my sharp, slender needle. And all I'm going to do is just finish it off. I'm going to go down and go up. And now, because I've got 2 pieces of this kind of thread, you can see the stitches. But if you lean it up, the needle towards the top, then you start to get them to disappear. Okay, so I'm going to take it again. I'm going to push it in, and then I'm going to come up behind it actually and slide it to the front, and it starts to disappear. You see, instead of having really dominant stitching right there, go down in and come up from the back. And the neat thing is, you could use any thread, an embroidery thread even, and you could use the button hole stitch. But I like that you can't see it. You can work it so that you can't see it. And I'd be done quick if I was using the sewing machine. And there's sometimes I would, because if you're going to make a gift that merely needs to stand up to the time, you might want to sew it with a sewing machine or something for a child. But that's exactly what I did, and I'd get up to the corner and just turn the corner and head back down. And if my thread is too short, then I just take it and I would push my needle through and come to the back. See there, you can see my stitches, how fun that is. Then you can there's where the thing is. I'm going to run these through there, just catching that. That's one way to do it, because I don't want them to show. And then I'd be ready to cut off and put some new thread on there and knot it and be ready to go. And like this, you don't have to have a 5.5-inch border. That's just what they did. You could use a shorter border, not as wide. And you just get these different looks, and then using your different materials. And like for that one is just using a regular ruler. It's like this one would only be like 4.5 inches. So you could drop it. And I don't know if you got this far, you just have to watch out for up there that you have enough seam to get what you want. And then that would be, with 1/4 of an inch, would be 3.5. So you have a lot of choices that, well, let's see. Yeah, that's right. From there down to there would be 3.5. You'd have a lot of you have a lot of things that you can do, options to do with this. I hope you enjoyed that. I'm really looking forward to having a quilt that I can do this on. And this is a way to help you use up the wider borders that you have on quilts. This is Stephanie at Hightower Stitching. Thank you for watching. If you have anything to add to it, or anything that will help anybody, or anything that you liked, please hit subscribe and like. Thank you.